BORUNTE class, introduction and use of relative instruction. Relative instruction is for the robot to move in its current position based on the relative value of the motion mode. We can tick relative and posture line or posture curve line or free paths in editor S per H tat to operate the robot in relative motion. Here, we cannot select input the point position in the point position setting of relative instruction. We can only fill in the input point position manually. We must review and understand the previous courses on setting up posture lines, posture curve line, and free paths in advance. Relative instructions combines the operating characteristics of three motion instructions. Calculate the specific motion position of the point by inputting the relative value data of the point, thereby achieving the relative point motion of the robot. For example, the relative free path. Tick relative and free path, and click on the right input the endpoint option box. Here will appear the setting of J1 to J6. Assuming we input -20 degrees on the J1 axis, and input 20 degrees on J5 axis. To test run the program, robot will move 20 degrees in both the negative direction of the J1 axis and the positive direction of the J5 axis, based on the current point position. When the robot runs in the next cycle, it will continue to move 20 degrees towards the negative direction of the J1 axis joint and the positive direction of the J5 axis simultaneously, starting from the current point position. This is the relative free path. Next one is relative posture line. Tick relative and posture line. Similarly, input the relative value for setting the endpoint. Assuming we input -50 on the x-axis, robot will move a distance of 50 millimeters towards the negative x-axis of the world coordinate at its current position. If you want robot to move a relative gesture, you can run the robot to move in a relative gesture by setting the relative values of the U, V, and W axes. The same operation applies to relative posture curve line. Firstly, we set the starting point position through a posture line or free path. Then tick relative and posture curve line. Click input midpoint and endpoint. Input the relative value of the point position on the XYZ-UVW axis. Finally, test run the robot. We can see robot moves to the midpoint by calculating relative values from the starting point. Then calculate the relative value data from the midpoint and move it to the endpoint. D is the operation of relative posture curve line. It should be noted that when using relative posture line or relative joint instruction, if robot stops midway and restarts, it will continue to move the set relative instruction value, using the stop position as a reference point. Above is the BORUNTE class, introduction, and use of relative instruction. Any questions about the content? Welcome to ask questions in the comments. Follow me for more technical information.